Keith Pichelle. I live on the northwest side around 33rd and Clifton. We currently don't have any grocery stores, I think, in either direction for at least 3 miles. Typically, it does affect me because it's a lot longer to go to a grocery store, and so what ends up happening in the pinch is you end up running down to the Family Dollar or the gas station to pick up stuff that's probably not as healthy for you, just to get something quick to eat. I definitely would say I haven't been eating as healthy since the AA closed on MLK because we don't have any access to fresh vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. I was actually trying to till out my front yard today because we're going to go do a garden, because that's going to be probably the simplest way of getting cheap produce that I can eat readily, and I think some of my neighbors are going to plant in there too. And there's a lot of people doing it, but we're in a low-income neighborhood, and people aren't going to grow much more than what they need. That's just the way it is. And if they had assistance, maybe getting topsoil, starts, tools, a tiller, or something like that, it would be a lot easier for them to build more capacity, and maybe we could share, or just buy it directly from them.
My name is Imhotep Adisa. I like to refer to myself as an intern of the Kepler Institute. Knock, man, next time you come to that door, dude. Out in the world, folks like to refer to me as the executive director of the Kepler Institute. But the kinds of things we look to do are always grounded in how do we provide space and opportunity and encouragement for people in the community to empower themselves to address and solve their own issues in their community. The idea of food access, to me, starts with the issue of economic equity. If you don't have money, you can't have access. But if you don't solve an economic problem and a problem of creating long-term self-reliance, self-determination, that's the root cause of it.
Food deserts aren't necessarily a food problem, I guess I would say, which sounds weird, but ultimately, the definition of a food desert is a combination of access to food and its geography and how close you are, and then your economic situation. And so you could put food on every corner, but if the economics don't improve, then people still can't buy it. But I think we really need to do a better job of sustainable economic development in Indianapolis so that people, the other half of the equation for food deserts can be addressed, which is, poverty and low income status that is hard to change.
Social justice is really about addressing the inequities in our society. And to me, food justice is just the same concept with its opportunities and challenges applied to the area of food. Right before I moved to Indy to work on a food-related project, the AA grocery stores closed. So those have been there for like 50, 60 years. In a lot of communities, they were the only grocery store. And so when they all closed without notice, it really threw a lot of people for a loop. Community came together to say, what do we do now? We need food, we need healthy food, we need fresh food, food we can afford. And the conversation here at KI was really a lot about how do we, as community members, make sure that we have a food supply and a food system that will actually benefit us and sustain us. A lot of people move to, okay, what's the next grocery store going to be? Which, yes, people need grocery stores. We need grocery stores in our communities, and that's a good point. But the problem is it's the same model, and a lot of them are just going to leave eventually because of the economic system, really, and the priorities of the bottom line versus the realities of the community.
My name is Sybil Satterfield, and I am a growing partner at an urban farm called Street Beats, Streetside Market Garden. I'm a mother of 2 and a grandmother of 5. So, I'm one of those people who's just kind of all over the place and just enjoys doing something new. I'll say that Justin and I, decided to get into urban farming because the need that we saw as we began to do research about different opportunities there were to make a difference in our community. We found out that food was one of the greater needs at the moment. We live in what's called a food desert, so the idea of being able to grow food in our community, that stays in our community, was something that was really exciting to us. Street Beets, first of all, is one of the farms in the Purdue Farm Incubator Project. And part of that created the opportunity for us to go to the Small Farm Conference in Danville, Indiana, back in March of this year. We didn't know what to expect when we got there, but we got there, and let's see, if a table sat 8 to 10 people, there was one table in the room that had people of color. And the rest of the room, was filled with Caucasians, white people, other people, whatever you want to call it. So the idea of women of color wrapping their mind around the whole idea of growing food as a way to sustain yourself, I think is an obstacle to be surmounted. There's a stigma with working in the ground across the board in our community because of the history that we have with being the agricultural producers in this country and that being born out of slavery. So there are a lot of people who feel like, if you've arrived farming or agriculture is not what you do something that does not get you dirty. And especially if you're a female, it's like that's dirty work. You have to have nails, you have to have hair, you have to have all these things that are contrary to, doing dirty work. It is something that doesn't require you to do anything except set expectations for yourself, create your own goals, and then go after it. Some of the other challenges that I see are in my own community. There's a saying in my community that says the white man's ice is colder, okay? So, I can have organic produce here and you can see it growing, and we'll just use a generic name, Susan, is growing organic produce here, but because she's white and because I'm black, there's a perception that this might be better produce. So that whole perception of believing that something from somewhere else is better is something that you have to overcome, and it's across the board. I had the occasion to go to someone that I wanted to approach as being a market for our business, and it was a local restaurant, and the response was kind of like, oh, well, it's really nice what you're doing, but and I'm like, okay. So I have plans to go back, with a bushel of tomatoes and say, this is what we're doing. We're taking this seriously. We want you to take us seriously. We want to be a supplier for you. And I think that, when we change that mindset about, producers of color, we can see a little more economic empowerment.
Yeah, so urban farming is really a way to grow healthy food with an entrepreneurial emphasis. And so I support people that are growing to sell. Now, that doesn't have to be for profit, it could be non-profit, but it's at an enterprise level. And so really people are trying to do that for a few different reasons, but they all revolve around a type of revitalization. So it could be economic, environmental, if you're trying to garden in a space that has been kind of ill-treated in an environmental way. Community revitalization, even if you just think a little more abstractly, like nutrition and food revitalization, bringing back healthy food into people's lives. And urban agriculture is a really direct way to do that and produce some beautiful, healthy stuff right in the city. Well, like I mentioned, the revitalization aspect, if you're trying to improve your local economy or improve your local environment or even just think about community good, it's usually because there's a challenge there that you're trying to address. Economic challenges exist too. Any new small business is going to face a lot of growing pains and learning curves, and so we try to help people through that as much as we can. We had an urban farm business planning class last year, try to lay the groundwork in a more strategic way before you get out there and plant your seeds.
We have a relationship with Purdue Extension where we're incubating, helping to launch an incubator for urban farmers and supporting folks from the neighborhood and other areas of our community who are interested in not only growing food, but growing food to create economic opportunities for themselves and their community. But it's also a very empowering tool when here, I can go out here, grow this food, feed myself, my family, and make food available to the community without having to rely on the grocery store or other sources that you have no control over, no involvement in. We have an initiative here that we're launching next month, Community Controlled Food Initiative, where we too will be accessing food direct from local farmers, healthy food, reduced price, and SNAP will be one of the tools we use also.
So we found this great model out of Louisville by an organization called New Roots. They do these fresh stops. So basically, communities come together, we pool our money, and we connect with local farmers, and we buy directly from them in bulk, and then we distribute it in the community space. And it's all done on a sliding scale according to income. So you can pay $12, you can pay $25, depending on what you're able to pay, and you accept SNAP and EBT. And it's been really beautiful to see so many community people come in and say, yeah, we can do this, and build it, and out of it, a lot of relationships and energy has formed. Projects like the Community Controlled Food Initiative, I mean, that first part, community control, is one of the most important things about it. And the energy that's created out of people coming together to say, hey, we can figure out how to address this need that we have ourselves with the things that we have, creates that attitude in general and builds relationships between people in the community that can allow us to confront all sorts of different issues with that energy.
When you come to the farmers market, you can use your SNAP. We also have 2 matching programs to help make fresh, healthy food more affordable to all members of the community. So we created our own SNAP matching program called the Eat Well Initiative. We fund that program through our by donation yoga classes that are held every Saturday. Especially moving to our new location, we're now in the Near East Side, which is a federally declared food desert and promise zone. So many of the neighborhoods have been super welcoming, and people can walk here, they can ride their bikes. It's a little bit more accessible than our previous downtown location.
We incorporate mindfulness into the work that we do because really it's foundational for people to find their path that brings them to that point of being vibrant, being healthy, and thriving.
Your children get to have interaction with their food at a place that's way far beyond consumption. And that's part of what I want people to understand, that having an experience with your food, from production to processing to consumption, is something that we need to be able to, think more critically about.
And efficient use of energy is inviting people to experience something that perhaps they've never experienced before, and then they get on board, they have buy-in. The food that we grow, a lot of it is we sell to almost 40 restaurants in Indianapolis.
My name is Becky Hostetter. I'm the chef and co-owner of Duos Indy here in Indianapolis, and we're interested in food justice and sustainability and community. Well, Eam used to come to our restaurant down in the basement of the old Catholic Girls' School back in the day. I think he just showed up here one day, and he started sharing about the program, and I just thought it's a natural partnership because we're not just community participants, but we're this community.
We have a relationship with Duos, it's a local restaurant where we pick their compost up, bring it back to our garden, and utilize that as another teaching tool, but also a way to build social capital in the community.
KI does an amazing service for us by composting, having Osley, which is family really, but it's also be a part of this. All of the kids feel like that's a rich relationship, and everybody associated with it. It takes time, but I think that we all can have that time, and I think it can reach everybody. I would recommend this behavior for other restaurants. I think that a lot of restaurants sometimes are too much of an island to themselves. I just look out in the dining room and I feel proud every day. I just feel like it's a real gift to be able to touch people through food. I feel like every human you come across, that's just an opportunity. We're there because we're supposed to have this moment, and I get all weepy about it, but have this teeny moment where we can have an impact, whether it's just a glance, an acknowledgement in an eye, or whether you just engage in a conversation and listen and wholly to somebody who isn't necessarily thinking the way that you do.
So it's a process of working, having conversations about, who do you want making the decisions for you? Do you want to be in control of your life, or do you want other people to be in control of your life?
Just dig into the dirt and make something happen.
I want to end with the 3 R's: resist, reclaim, renew. Get busy. Change the world.